Okay. Started late last time. We're gonna start a little early this time. One time for your mind. One time. I got a playback there. Time to stop caking with your woman and watching Peaky Blinders like Kent Bazemore. Now's the time to run. We're running with WARR. And the runners are with me here. Drew, Josh, as usual. And again, joining us on this run is our good friend Gabriel Wilkins, sitting in for Chris, who will be down with us back on Thursday. If you don't know, we're gonna have our big WNBA preview show on Thursday, and we're gonna have Chris there with his partner James K from the Skyhook podcast. So they're gonna be down with us, helping to preview everything in the women's basketball season coming forward. And but tonight we just gonna keep going with our NBA coverage. Because of that show, I've been doing a couple extra shows this week and last week as well. Given how things have been, coalescing here, a lot of important basketball being played and covered in these last here in May. The end of the NBA season, like I said, combining with the beginning of the WNBA season. So we just wanted to give you a little extra show footage and coverage to rise to the occasion, as it were. And like I said, a lot to talk about still. And we got the playing games on there, on the horizon coming up early next week. And locally here with the Bulls are still playing games of importance. But you can go back and forth and we will about just how important those games are and what they'll mean, going forward. But the Bulls are still competitive in a way, and a lot of other stuff going on in the league, and we're just gonna go into as much of it as we can here over the next hour plus. And for you guys, starting off, man, anything that that's been jumping out at you, that's been sticking with you in regards to the basketball world since we last convened on Thursday?
Mr. Triple Double. I gotta give my shout outs to Russell Westbrook for breaking the Albertsons all triple double record. Man, that's very hard to do. And if anything, this really just cemented Russell Westbrook's legacy as far as what he will go down in history for. Especially this solidifies him for sure as a Hall of Famer. And we've discussed before, I believe he will probably go down as the Allen Iverson of our generation. When you talk about impact on and off the court and not winning a championship when you want him to win one. Both went to the finals that one year and they just lost to better teams. So I think this is really something that will never be broken again. We've witnessed history in the making, and for it to be Russell Westbrook in the way that he's been able to, his skill set and what he's been able to do over the past years, man, you can't throw hate at this guy. You got to love him and appreciate all the things that he's done. And you got to spread the flowers while you can. So I'm definitely spreading my flowers right now. Thank you, Mr. Triple Double. Thank you, Russell Westbrook, for for bringing it every night. And it shows in the stats that you put up, and it shows in the success as well as in the fan base. So thank you, Russell Westbrook. Appreciate you, and you continue to be great because as he always says, why not?
He says he's straight up. He's the greatest playmaker in the NBA. You willing to agree with that, Josh?
I appreciate Russ's confidence in himself.
That's okay. It's not necessarily yes or no, but I give it to you though. Drew, Gabe, y'all got anything you want to add on to that or give anything else here at the tip?
Just real quickly, just the induction of
Definitely.
Hall of Fame class.
Yeah.
Led by KG and Kobe and Duncan. Looking forward to that. Got delayed due to COVID. So that, that should be a big weekend, big event coming up this weekend. I'm not sure the particulars in terms of how it's gonna actually be done. Anybody see that?
Well, what do you mean? Like,
it's not gonna be kind of like the quote unquote.
I haven't. I believe it's gonna be some virtual.
Virtual. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna be. It's. I know it's gonna be broadcast pretty well. ESPN is gonna be covering
Michael Jordan. Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Gabe. You want to jump in?
Michael's supposed to be presenting like two people. I know Michael's supposed to be presenting two people.
Yeah, he's presenting for Kobe.
Like I know Kim Mulkey is one of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to say Kim Mulkey. Sort of interestingly is the other. I think the most notable one is the more notable one is Kobe. But it's gonna be like this. Really, this class overall is sort of like one of the. You got to think say it's one of the more notable classes that there's ever been. I got it up on my phone. I go over the entire class. Let me get this.
It's the best class I've seen since the one that Mike went in with. When Mike went in with Stockton.
Yeah.
And I think he went in with like Malone as well. Like, and it was a couple of other illustrious coaches that he went in with.
Yeah, let me see. I'll go back to some of the recent classes in a minute, Gabe. But let me go over this year's class. You have you have to help me with this one. Patrick Baumann is being introduced by Russ Granick and Vlade Divac. More notably, Kobe Bryant, of course, being presented by Mike. Tamika Catchings is being presented by Lonzo Mourning and Don Staley, of course, a women's basketball great. Tim Duncan being presented by David Robinson. Kevin Garnett is going to be introduced by Isaiah Thomas. Kim Mulkey, as we said, by Mike. Barbara Stevens being presented by Gino Auriemma and Muffet McGraw. So I guess another women's basketball great. Eddie Sutton, of course, big great college basketball coach, being presented by John Calipari, Bill Self, and Sidney Moncrief. And, of course, Rudy Tomjanovich, we all know, presented by two other Rockets greats, Calvin Murphy and Akeem Olajuwon. So, yeah, there's stars all up and down that class. And I'm going to shout out some of the broadcasts being awarded, too. Award recipients. Mike Breen is getting an award. Mike Wilbon, Jim Gray, the Inside the NBA crew, George Raveling, Bill Russell's getting an award too, Manny Jackson Award, and Wayne Embry, each getting Manny Jackson Award. So there are a lot of different things that happen, awards being presented and stuff to people, like Bill Russell already in the hall, but you can't award people like that enough, So like Josh said, you give them their flowers while they're still here. So yeah, definitely an amazing class.
I like that they give Wayne Embry his flowers too.
You said Wayne Embry?
Yeah, the first black NBA executive. Did a hell of a job in Cleveland building that roster with Mark Price and Brad Daugherty and those guys. So I'm glad to see that he's getting his flowers at his old age, because that's a name that I don't hear too often that a lot of people talk about in NBA circles anymore. So to see Wayne Embry, a guy that played with Bill Russell back in the day, getting his flowers, that's pretty cool.
Definitely got to give it up for those who paved the way and made the history, made history and made the way for so many others in the game. Like you say, a pioneer among Black executives. That's definitely something that we still trying to make better in the NBA. Could be more representation, definitely for former players and Black people and people of color, women, all that. We need to see more of all that in these NBA front offices. So yeah, definitely. Definitely. Glad you brought that up, Drew, because I was looking to say something about the class. Another thing I just came across, we talk about getting things back to normal and things that we've missed over the past year plus. The draft combine was something that didn't happen. It's become sort of routine in Chicago in recent years. And a report from Shams Charania in The Athletic just popped up about a half hour ago confirming that the combine will be returning to Chicago this year. It's going to take place from June 21st to the 27th and consist of in-person team interview sessions, 5-on-5 games, shooting drills, measurements, all that good stuff. It's going to be conducted at the Wintrust Arena and Marriott Marquis. So nothing about what's the spot?
Moody Bible.
Moody Bible, yeah. Nothing about Moody Bible and none of that, man. They get away from that. Yeah.
They used to have it. They had it in Quest for a few years, for the last several years.
Right, yeah, on the west side, yeah.
Tim Grover spot, right?
On Harrison.
Yeah, over on the west side.
Tim Grover's spot used to be Tim Grover's spot until he lost it. Right. My man Jerry Harden running. Shout out his team up there quite often whenever I can be.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested in how they're gonna run the things at Wintrust. Maybe we can get up in there somehow.
Well, I'm trying. That's right. that's I'm in the institution now. I'm trying to get up in there now. So for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm definitely gonna do what I can to get up in there.
Yeah, we'll see. We gonna be on it on some way, somehow. We're gonna try to get our noses in there.
That's B-Day weekend too. So I gotta get involved. That's B-Day weekend. B-Day and basketball just worked for me. So you gotta do something with that.
Definitely. Yeah, good to see the combine returning, and like I said, just another sign that we're getting back to normalcy. With the NBA and everything. So, yeah. So, anything else you guys coming to mind before we get to the official stuff?
Definitely the race for the scoring title. Over the last 3 years, James Harden has pretty much had this thing wrapped up by the final month of the season. And to have Bradley Beal and Stephen Curry on at it, with Steph up by only half a point in the race for the scoring title, this is shaping up to probably be one of the most interesting races for the scoring championship that I've seen in the last decade. You got to go all the way pretty much back to probably 2012-13 between Carmelo and Kevin Durant when they were in the race for the scoring championship. So I think that they got a fun little battle going on, and you can tell that they're keeping their eyes on one another, trying to see who scored what on any given night so they can figure out how to top of the match.
Right. A little controversy is stemming from that too. I put the Beal Bazemore conflagration on our rundown. So we're gonna get into that in a little bit, but that stems from the whole scoring title race, because Bazemore called himself having a little subliminal at Beal, and of course Beal is going competing with Steph Curry in that one, but we don't get into that in a minute. But I guess let's start off with some bull talk. some Bull-ish. Bulls are in action right now with the Nets, and let me update this. Losing 51-36 late, well, about midway through the second quarter. It seemed like this is a situation where they're going to have to try to keep up scoring-wise with Brooklyn, and I don't think the Bulls are going to be up for that job. But they came into today, had a 3-game winning streak that showed some life in the team again. They got Zach LaVine back, and his minutes have steadily climbed up over the past 3 games, as is his output, of course. And the team overall, Kobe White has looked nice over recent games, and a lot of stuff. Continuing to get good stuff from Vooch and everything. This team is looking more like I sort of idealized it to look in the wake of the trading deadline. Sort of finally started to look the way that we sort of expected them to look in competing for playoff spots. But it seems to be a bit too little, too late. Of course, they put themselves in a position, even with this recent win streak, where they have to continue to win out in their last 4 games starting tonight. And 2 of these games coming against the Nets, one the very final game Sunday going against the Bucks, and a very still competitive Toronto team sandwiched in there on Friday. So it's hard to even before tonight with this effort that we're seeing, hard to imagine them winning these last 4 games in a row. But if they lose tonight, they're pretty much sunk officially. So I don't know. How you guys, first off, if you want to react to the recent win streak from over the weekend, the games they played since Zach has gotten back on the team. And, what do you think about the outlook in these last 4 games? What does it mean? What are you looking to see? What are you expecting to see? Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, unless they were going to lock Zach LaVine in his home and keep Vucevic out with that hip injury, there was no way that this team was going to, willingly try to tank for a better shot at keeping that protected pick. So to see, the group of guys on the court between Zach LaVine, Vooch, even P. Will, Kobe White, to see the guys that we expect to be here next year start to play better together. I mean, that's encouraging moving forward, because they play really well. Now, of course, the caveat to that is that the teams that they beat were not at all at full strength. The Pistons, the Pistons are the Pistons. So whether they had Jeremy Grant, I think, did he play in that game? I don't even know.
The Detroit game?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have made that big of a difference, even though he has a case for most improved player. But
I doubt it.
Yeah, I just think that it's good to see them play well. Those 3 guys in particular, and Pat Will included, even though he's still kind of finding his way. 69 games into the season, but
he didn't play.
Jeremy Grant didn't play. Okay,
he didn't play.
Okay, I wasn't sure on that. But as far as looking ahead, I mean, they're only in the race by mathematics, you know what I'm saying? By this time, Thursday, Friday, it's probably gonna be a wrap, man. It makes those losses, those duds to Cleveland earlier in the season, to Oklahoma City way back when they allowed them to come back, and that game went in overtime, they ended up losing. It makes those losses even harder to stomach. And I'm sure the teams that are not in playoff or play in positioning that are right there have those same type of games that they can look back on too. But we can only look at what we got in front of us right now. I think there is something to be said about the harmony that those guys are starting to play with moving forward. And we just got to hope for a good offseason. The front office being able to fill out that roster as best as they can, and Pat will get a good training camp under him, summer league, and be ready to reset come next season.
Yeah.
Josh, yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
No, yeah, Drew. I'm pretty much in the same boat, man. I'm already preparing. I'm already drinking my Buds Lights as I watch these games, man. Just letting it wind down for the end of the season. That's pretty much where I'm at this point. It is encouraging though to see that we have a potential small 3-person lineup that has some quality talent, right? You got to put question marks around that because, especially when you talk about Kobe White being that third guy. He has the talent, but you're talking about a big 3 where he's that explosive. Yeah, it's a little early. But you do have a pair that works. We saw that Zach LaVine and Vucevic over time works perfectly fine. The problem is who's going to be that third guy, and can you rely on Kobe White to be that third guy? On top of the other issues that you already have, you talk about the lack of big men that are, as Drew would say, asshole-ish and bullish, or you talk about the lack of an actual point guard that fits under Billy Donovan and what he's looking for. So therefore, there's still a lot of question marks. There's some positivities that we can take down the end, but at the end of the day, the Bulls are still the developing Bulls that we have known for years. They still have a ways to go. So because of that, all we could do is look forward to the offseason and figure out what they will do. We just talked about the draft combine coming up. What are they going to look at when it comes to this draft combine? Drew mentioned the offseason. You got potential free agents to look into that could potentially fill that bill. It's been reported that the Bulls will look at Lonzo Ball or maybe Dennis Schroeder, which, it would be an upgrade, but is it like the ideal upgrade? No. So it's a lot of question marks. I think at this point, we just got to enjoy the fact that, we're not going to be in this play-in, and the Bulls are just going to continue to play for entertainment, and I'm going to drink my Buds in the process and be like, all right, let's see. I hope Zach LaVine goes for 50 just because. Like, that's pretty much where that's where I'm at this point when you talk about this Bulls team, because they played themselves out of a potential opportunity to be in this playoff. I mean, I think with Zach LaVine being out for all those games with the protocols really set the Bulls back to a point where that idea of being in a play-in tournament, even though we thought that was a long shot chance anyways, it really pushed it back. It really pushed that opportunity that much back further. And this is what happens when you have those duds and you have unfortunate circumstances, and you just see where, you just hope that things get better as we prepare for the next offseason and actually get Arturas Karnisovas in the actual full offseason with the training camp, the draft combines, actually time to talk to players and other athletes, etc.
When I look at the Bulls, like win streak recently over the last 3 games, it's something to build off of. It's something that it gives guys something to go into, the summer grind with optimism and ready to, to attack their workouts. And I know a guy like Zach will take this very personally, very seriously. Likely go back to Seattle and get some workout, seeing with his father, and get back in the lab because you know how bad he wants to be in the playoffs and on that big stage. And I think Bulls fans should take this as something to build off of. I think a lot of times in Chicago, we have a lot of overarching expectations for young teams. And as a byproduct of that, we tend to get very, very excited. It was always going to be some highs with this season. It was always going to be some lows as well along the way. However, you learn from those, you take that, and you build off of it. And I think they know what they have to do now. AK and Mark, they know what they got to do. They got to get a point guard that can get them into their set. They got to get a couple more veterans in the building, know what it takes to win, who have been there and done that, so that they can teach these other young guys in the locker room how to win. And maybe that way you could become a playoff team and you could become to the Eastern Conference within the next year to year and a half. But the Clippers were in the West not too long ago, where you're knocking on the door and maybe get that big time free agent by making those plays in the off season and building off of experiences such as this
one. Okay, yeah. Josh, I saw you post some in response to Zach likely playing with Team USA this summer. And you seem like you wanted to do some fishing during that process, huh?
hey, he gonna be in Vegas. He gonna be training. He gonna be doing his thing with the superstars. So I want him to hit up. I wanted to hit up the clubs. I wanted to hit up Dre's nightclub in the section with with all the other superstars that are gonna be free agents this offseason to say, you know what, consider coming into Chicago because we have some of this. I mean, if you go to Chicago right now, it's gonna be lit. We're gonna be open by July 4th. So when all this stuff comes back, we'll have the vibe, we'll have the scenery in Chicago, baby. I mean, come on. You gotta get some fishing in there. You gotta get some fishing in there. And I think people will listen. That's the thing. People have noticed and admitted that Chicago is up to something. They've noticed that what the Bulls are doing. Kevin Durant went on a podcast throughout this one time, I think throughout the season, and said, he was impressed with what the Bulls have done, especially for them to trade for Vucevic and pair him with Zach LaVine. And he likes Kobe White, which I think is an overall assessment that NBA players have around the league. It's about putting it all together and figuring out how to put them in the right positions to win. And Gabe said a lot of the great stuff that quite frankly the Bulls do need. But it will also help if Zach can go to Vegas and play for Team USA, win that gold medal, and then bring in some other talent along with them. Because that's where things normally began. You talk about Kevin Durant and going to the Golden State Warriors, kind of how that journey started. It starts from those type of areas. Kyrie and KD played together for the first time in the Olympic team. Look at them now. They're playing together in Brooklyn. So, those are where things start to happen, and that's where magic can happen. Zach just got to put in that word and let them know, like, yo, we for real down here, and I'm for real. So let's make it happen. And you're in Vegas too. Come on now. Why would you not want to go to a club and be like, hey, let's get a couple bottle sections on me. Let's talk some business. Come on now.
Well, yeah, it's player development.
I think it's gonna take more than that.
Yeah, social development. I don't know whatever you want to call it, man. It definitely it's pretty much only two places where super teams have been built. In the past 10, 15 years, it's been the All-Star game and the Olympic team. Olympic trials, Olympic practices. These are where the elites of the league converge, and they talk to each other, they kick it, and they form bonds that they want to continue into their regular playing. So if Zach wants to be a part of that, there's two ways he could go. He can go off and jump into some other people's stuff, or he can, which could be the case. He could be a free man in 2022. But hopefully he'll want to be like, look, we got Chicago over here. This is a Hoopers town. This is a town with a legacy to it. Let's try to add to that legacy and see what we can do. Maybe y'all could get away from what y'all do and see what we can do here. Me and Vooch and our guys, we got something here. You like what we doing? Come and ride with us. So it's interesting. This is gonna be an important summer to keep going and keep up the momentum, and a lot of different things can play with that. And play into that, I should say. I want to throw out this one thing. This is sort of this one article I saw, sort of light stuff. It's coming from fan side, and it's not a insider type thing. But this cat Andrew Miller on fan side threw out 3 stars to target this offseason to form a big 3 for the Bulls. I just want to get your thoughts on this right quick. Because, a couple of these guys got sort of interesting. One I wouldn't really want to deal with. But he puts out DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, and Sabonis, young Sabonis down in Indiana. Now, of course, DeRozan actually will be available in the summer. Lowry, as will Lowry. Sabonis would take some dealing, but the writer mentions that there's some. I don't know if any of you guys have heard any of this, but to what degree? But that Indiana is sort of going to be looking to maybe deal Sabonis or Turner, and separate that pairing down there. And he mentions Turner or Sabonis maybe being guys who the Bulls should look at. So I don't know. What do you guys think of any of those options? I guess 4 options in general, but like I say, the writer put Sabonis over Turner as an option for the Bulls.
Miles Turner would be a much better option for the Bulls. Defensively, they need a guy in the paint that's going to commit and make his presence felt, and they haven't had that. Wow. That's one of the main reasons why they've been one of the worst defenses in the league over like the last 3 to 4 years. You get a guy like Miles Turner in the building, you got the leading shot blocker, you got a guy that's going to be able to come out on a pick and roll and occasionally, every now and then, here and there, something that not most of the Bulls bigs recent memory. You need a guy like Miles Turner. Sabonis, I don't see Indiana parting ways with him. I know it's a lot of friction going on down there. I know that it's a lot of players that really don't have a liking with Nate, the head coach. That was one of the main reasons why he opted and just hell with the season. That's a fact. He had a real tight relationship with Nate, and I think he took it real personally when they hired Bjorken, and he had that introduction meeting that was relatively short. So if they could get a guy like Miles Turner on the free agency market who can help a lot of teams, I think the Bulls would be well on their way. But first and foremost, you got to get a point guard in the building who can put these guys in sets and in position to succeed. And Lonzo, to me, would be priority number 1 if I was AK. You got to get a young guy to defend. They got to get tougher, and they got to get some. You change coach.
Yeah, definitely. We went over it last week. Priority number 1 should be the point guard position. And a lot of people are looking at Alonzo as being that jewel that the Bulls should at least try to snatch up, or add on to their efforts already that they may have done. But definitely, it's interesting. Some options that may be out there, like I said in that article that I bring up, neither one of those guys. But Lowry is a point guard, of course. He's not the guy. Like I said, because of his age, I wouldn't necessarily want to go after him. But he is a proven playoff commodity. He's a proven, all NBA or all-star type level player. So that would seem to be something. Though, if you're more towards a more complete product as a team, and you feel like you're going to be going after a title in 2022, the Bulls not going to be going after a title in 2022. So I would go more towards the younger option. Definitely the Lonzo or even the Dennis Schroeder. As far as building this team and compiling this roster into something that's going to be competitive over a number of seasons and not just the next season to come.
Yeah, and I mean the tricky part is the Bulls don't have that much cap space right now. Like, one of the big fish is going to eat up basically their entire cap space. To go after Lonzo Ball is going to cost, probably at least 20 mil, if not, closer to the 25 mil range from everything I've read. So that's going to be tough to deal with, man. Trying to fill that point guard role, and then also try to fill out more parts of that roster, namely, trying to get in some veterans, some wing depth, better wing. In that article, the names that you mentioned, man, like Gabe said, Miles Turner is probably the most attractive piece, but you would have to trade for him. So who are you trading? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that we have I don't know, unless you try to work out maybe a sign-in trade with marketing, but why would I don't know if Indiana would do that deal because I don't know. I don't know, man. It's not. We got Vucevic, which was great in terms of pairing Levine with another, another legit all-star. But the catch-22 is now that we have that piece, we don't have that same cap flexibility to fill the holes that we need to fill in order to have a better shot at the middle of the East contention.
Definitely, yeah. It's like I said, with the Indiana players, and just again going from that article, either one of those guys you'd have to make a deal with. You can't just snatch them up. And even with Lonzo, you're talking about a restricted free agent, so any deal, any offer that you make to him, New Orleans can match. So it's not gonna be easy, it's not gonna be like a buffet out there for the guys, for the Bulls, And I guess my whole thing too, the interesting thing with that article to me is the phrasing, and this is could be SEO strategy as much as anything. The mentioning of a big three, one of those guys creating a big three for the Bulls, with Zach and Vooch. In your opinion, would any of those guys make a quote unquote big three? Would Lonzo make a big three with the Bulls? What y'all think?
Well, let's put it this way: if Lonzo makes a big three, is in a headline, I'll call a VAR ball right now and be like, "Yo, why don't we just have you come to Chicago and be part of this big three, and I'll play you one-on-one for it." Like, I will do that right now and be like, "Yo, Lonzo, like LeVar, let's make this happen," right? Because you got to sell that. That's what's gonna bring him probably to Chicago. Is that's you got to help sell that.
You say you're playing to their ego.
Yeah. I'm you definitely got to. You definitely got to. Let's say Chicago, blue collar.
But in reality, Josh, do you think that talent combination would live up to that label of a big three?
No, I don't. I think in a way it will enhance the Bulls to not necessarily a big three, but a dynamic duo with a hell of a sidekick, right? Because Zach LaVine and Vucevic are literally a dynamic duo when they play together. The numbers that they put up together and the stats that they have put together, especially as of recent, are impeccable. It's crazy. But having a nice sidekick along with that big three, like Alonzo Ball, will make that much more of a difference, though, as far as impacting the game on both ends of the floor currently than what they have right now. Lonzo Ball will be an ideal missing piece for at least the functioning of an offense, and with his improved ability to shoot the ball, especially from distance. If he continues that, that's another weapon for the Bulls' use that will actually enhance that offense that Billy Donovan wants, especially and while also improving the defensive side of the ball as well, because Lonzo Ball is a hell of a defender, especially from a point guard perimeter perspective. So Lonzo Ball is not the actual resolution to the Bulls' issues, right? However, he is a hell of a piece that if he's not going to be part of a big three, because I don't think he has the ultimate talent where he will be a part of a big three, but he can be a hell of a sidekick, like very similar to maybe like a BJ Armstrong or John Paxson was during the Jordan days, or a Greg Hodges, someone that like made an impact on the game, even though they weren't part of that big three talk or discussion. I think Lonzo could play a role in that. And if they need any help recruiting, I'll do it right now. I swear, I'll bust my knees to make sure that we get him over here if that's the case, man. Because he's going to be probably the most ideal option that the Bulls will have in this offseason compared to anybody else. And you don't want to do anything to chance that. You don't want to mess that up.
Yeah, I made this point on Twitter, but it was in reference to Vucevic, Levine, and White. But that would be, you can throw Ball in there too. For my hip hop heads, that would be like little brother of the NBA. You got Levine, who's like DeFonte. You got Vucevic, like ninth member. And you got if you want to put White or you want to put Lonzo Ball as Pooh. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not gonna get you to the Phillies. It's not gonna get you to the Brooklyns. It's not gonna get you to the Bucks. But you'll be right there with the Bostons, maybe with Miami, Atlanta's, the Pacers. You know what I'm saying? So it puts you in a better position. And at the end of the day, that's all we can hope for. You can only go after the free agents who are available when they're available. We can't overshoot and try to go for the 2022 something. You know what I'm saying? Like we can only work with what we got in front of us. So yeah, that's my. They be like little brother, man.
Okay. I know you're not doing this, but we ain't gonna have the poo slant, the random poo slander.
No, it ain't.
I know you ain't doing that, but I know he's an easy target though. He's an easy target, and I don't like that. I don't like that. Pooh
has come a long way, man. That gap ain't quite what it was, man. I will say that for Pooh, man.
Yeah, that's my man. He's the only one of the three I've met in person too. So that's my man.
Drew said he's trying to bring the U Black Negro Network.
You
Black Negro Network.
Yeah.
UBN.
Chapel Hill to the Shy. Oh, yeah. Wow.
I'm here for it.
Well,
I get that comparison though. I get that comparison though.
You know what I'm saying? They're not right. They're not EPMD. They ain't Outkast. They ain't Tribe. They ain't Wu-Tang. But they solid. You know what I'm saying?
Well, someone needs to get Questlove up in here, so it'll be that much more ideal.
But to keep it on the court though, I think we brought up the Clippers a little earlier, and I think that if the Bulls did gain a player of Ball's ability or Ball himself, that would be sort of similar to what the Clippers have, where you have, not necessarily of the same, stature as George and Kawhi, but you do have those two top level players, and a couple of award, sort of you could say award worthy players under them. Like when they had, particularly when they had when they had Mr. Magic City there still and everything, and in Pat Bev though they had a couple guys who could get defensive all NBA, or in Williams' case the sixth man of the year consistently award. Lonzo is a guy who he's not an all-star as of now, but he's a guy who can probably get on an all-defensive team, or if he was a sixth man, he could be a sixth man of the year type of dude. But as a starter too, he has a specific worth, and he's a guy who can give you a 30, 12, 14 game, on any given night, 30 points, 12, 15 assists, if he could come and snap off like that and on a random, basis, so that's, that I think that Clippers trajectory or arc is pretty good that, for the Bulls, even, like regardless of, if they're able to pick up that sort of talent on, in the upcoming, off season. But we looking to get Gabe back connected with us. Let me see. Hopefully he'll be doing a little better than on the restream, but still a little issue.
Gabe, can I throw a question out at y'all that I saw on Twitter?
Go ahead.
This was by C-Red Fred, noted Bulls historian on Twitter. He posed a question of, between the Knicks and the Bulls, which team do you feel would be more desirable location for free agents this upcoming season?
Say the Knicks, I guess. I mean,
Knicks too, man.
Yeah, the Knicks have played better. They're going to have a chance to play further into the season. More people are going to see them over the next few weeks, where the Bulls are going to be pretty much done at the end of this week. It's New York, man. New York is money. New York is power and influence, man. All of that. It's a bit more than you get in Chicago, man. So, yeah, I have to say New York. If New York was under Chicago in the standings, then I'd say the Bulls. But New York is up there right now. They're balling and they got some momentum going forward.
Yeah, they also have a lot more cap space than we do.
Yeah,
that's why they have a more higher chance of getting more like superstar type talent. And you mentioned the New York component. It's still Knicks City. It's still Knicks town over there. Like, even though Brooklyn is doing their thing and everybody's like the Nets, people like us that still grew up in that Knicks era, from the earlier days, it's still Knicks City down there. People still love the Knicks more than the Nets do right now. So you want to talk about notoriety and more name and fame, why not do it in a Knicks uniform in Madison Square Garden where they do have a team that's on the rise, with the front office that's become very aggressive and progressive. And on top of that, you have talent that want to be there. Thibodeau's a proven coach. You have Julius Randle that's that's an all-star budding into an all-NBA player. You have a core that's there. You have a decent core that's there, and they're winning. You got worldwide guests that can pop up to any celebrity event you think of and pretty much recruit somebody if he really wants to come to the city. And Leon Rose is a proven agent who's respected across the league, and he's proven that that he knows what he's doing with this front office, and everything's just flowing correctly for the Knicks right now. I mean, I think James Dolan learned his lesson about learning to step back. Apparently, he hasn't done that with the Rangers, though. That's a whole other situation. But anyways, as far as what he's doing with the Knicks, yeah, he's letting them do what they do. And you see, when you put in winning culture in a losing culture and the impact that it has on there, you start winning. And that's what the Bulls are trying to do. They're still trying to define a winning culture because they haven't had that in a very long time. And they got rid of the guy that helped bring it there in the first place. And you see what he's doing there. You just hope Billy Donovan can do the same in Chicago.
Yeah, but Knicks got a pretty big game coming up second half with the TNT doubleheader tonight going against the Lakers. I saw they both got the same record, so that's interesting. But having that record in the East sets you up a bit better than it does in the West. So the Lakers are scared. They scared to death of the play-in, while the Knicks are sort of comfortable at 4. Like, hey, we're gonna have home court advantage in the first round and all that. They sitting pretty, but the Lakers are like, we don't want to deal with that 7 seed at all. But let's get into the league as a whole. Transition out of the Bulls stuff, and the first thing I wanted to get into was the Bazemore Beal stuff, and just to recap a little beef there. This may be a future beef history, on SB Nation, but and it actually may be because I don't know if you saw the link I texted a couple hours ago, but apparently Bazemore and Beal have had a little thing for a while, and it's sort of all been Bazemore picking at Beal. Like you get this across team sports quite a bit, but you mostly get it in the NBA where a player of clear journeyman status often picks on, like a weaker player will pick on a player of notable status, and really, in most cases, not really get anything out of it, but some temporary fame or whatever. But Bazemore in this position right now where he's barking up a taller tree that he deserves to be barking up, and he's sort of, I don't know if he's trying to act like he's doing it in the name of his guy Steph Curry, but Steph Curry don't need anybody to defend him or help him out with this. Steph's going to likely win the scoring championship, as Gabe mentioned earlier. It's a very competitive, very interesting scoring face-off that we're having here. one of those things that you don't often get in the league. It's sort of every 10 years you get sort of a good race like this towards the end of the season. You know, I was thinking, I was good. I'm glad you brought up the reference that you brought up earlier, Gabe. I was thinking like my old self. I was thinking about Shaq and David Robinson back in like '94 or something. You know, that was, you know, that had a little history to it too. That Shaq kind of manufactured between him and David Robinson, but that was real. That was a different era of the game, and you know, but you had that 70-point game that David Robinson had at the end of the season, and he wound up clearing Shaq with that. And you know, you've had these games recently where Beal and Curry have sort of been looking scoreboard watching, and that led to Bazemore saying this statement in a press conference about a guy with a weak hamstring or injured hamstring trying to keep up with Curry. And then, you know, once Beal heard that, I guess Beal, because of the past with Bazemore, he's probably cussed him out in front of his wife and kid and in the privacy of his home a few times. But, you know, he was ready to go as soon as he heard that, and he went off on him with a string of tweets. His wife went off on Bazemore, and it's just been this whole thing is circled around on ESPN today, and it's entertaining to say the least. But I don't know if you guys got any thoughts on this. I think there's really only I put in the rundown who do you got. You know, there's really only one option in real life as far as who would you have in this situation. But I know for some people in this online culture, it's, you know, there's a value that's given to you know, trolling, and you know, I'm not necessarily of that type, you know, of that you know, I'm not of that fabric. So I don't know. If you guys got any, like I say, thoughts to that, feel free to express them if you have any thoughts to that. Along those lines, but I don't know. What do you guys think about this whole thing?
St. Louis, man. He's from St. Louis. Like, this is St. Louis to them is like somewhat similar to what we do with like the west and south side of Chicago. When you come from a certain hood, you know, it's survival. Like you don't mess with those type of people. You don't mess with. He a real one. Bradley Beal's a real one.
And he's not putting up with any lame stuff. You know, that's St. Louis, that's Chicago, that's Midwest stuff.
Yeah, we're not with the
any
lame
foolishness, any lames. No.
Yeah, we don't do those. And he pretty much put him out there saying that he is one. I mean, that's how we do it. You know, Bradley Beal's a tough guy. I haven't met him personally, but I do know one family member of him that's related and does keep in touch with him from time to time. And I've been told, you know, he's a very cool guy, but just like any one of us, you say anything about family, or you come at him a certain way and it ain't right, he gonna let you know. And he let him know, like, I'm not the one to mess with. I mean, why would you do that? The dude's known for dropping 50+ games on any given night, no matter what, even if he wasn't healthy. Like, the Wizards have been winning as of recently and are in a position for a play-in because of Westbrook and Bradley Beal. And I don't understand this either, because even though Russell Westbrook did break the triple-double record, it was the same game he broke that record or the game before, I believe, when he tied Oscar Robertson, that Bradley Beal dropped 50 that same game. Like, why would you want to mess with that? I don't understand it either, man. I'm with you, Kyle. These trolls just don't get it. I don't get it. People love talking to trolls or praising trolls. I don't get it. I don't know if you've been paying attention to me. I'm dealing with trolls on Twitter just because of my Tebow Colin Kaepernick take. And that went crazy. You know, that's all over the place too. Everybody, because they don't know what they're talking about. So Bazemore don't even know what he's talking about. So,
yeah, like I say, it's a lot of people want to get attention, and like I say, it happens in the league a lot where lesser guys sort of pick fights with, you know, bigger guys in the league, and then, you know, Bazemore. That I made the mention earlier about chilling with your girl and Peaky Blinders. That like he said that in response to what Bazemore said that in response to what Beal did online, where he was like, "Well, I didn't think it was that big a deal, but you the one who started this stuff, man. Why you starting something? Then you want to back off like, oh, why is he tripping? Well, he tripping because you started with him, and I just don't understand, like, why even test that dude? He's got to have some sort of thing in his head that he's not revealing to people, where it's like, he just has a thing with Beal because again, the video I want the tweet. I want to mention the tweeter, but there's they say they have a history. He's C. Williamson. I know I've seen him on Twitter before. Chris Williamson. He put out a good video, a little compilation of times where Beal has been knocked out. He's gone in, up on dunks and layups in multiple games against Bazemore, going back to when he was with the Hawks. And Bazemore has knocked him down multiple times. That's something you do with somebody who you got a problem with. And then to have this thing where you sort of randomly mention them and take advantage of a random opportunity to dig at them, you could have just been like, look, this dude, my guy is the best scorer in the league. This dude Beal is working his butt off trying to keep up with my guy. He's doing a hell of a job, but he's not my guy. But he had to make it into this whole thing where it's like, he's not good enough or he's weak, because he has an injury. He can't control that, So it's like, the baseball, the more when I first was hearing about this stuff, I was like, well, it's just some random stuff, clown stuff, whatever, brothers talking. But, the more I think about it, it's like, man, Bazemore looking real weak with this, man. And Beal, he better hope that Beal, the only thing with Beal that because it's more of a personality thing on mine. I would have never let off on social media like he did. I'm more of a do a dirt or by my own way type dude. But I don't. If I'm gonna go in the inbox and air you out more than anything. It's for if I have to, But I see you. I'd rather see you in person more so than that. But I wouldn't have let myself emotionally be shown that much online. But I understand why Beal felt that way because it seems like I said, this dude has been knitting at him. He's been gnawing at him for a while. So I understand where Beal was coming from and where his wife was coming from, even too. But Bazemore needs to explain himself, I think, and say, look, I got a problem with this dude. And, that's why I mess with him. But, if he wants to have any type of respect in this coming out of this situation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only one person that can do that and make a bag off of it. That's Patrick Beverly. Where is he from? Chicago. Like,
it all comes back to where you're from, right?
It all comes back to where you're from, man. And people know from the Chi, St. Louis, us Midwesterners, don't mess with us. Like that's pretty much the bottom line. Be cool, keep your business, mind your business. Don't do us dirty, don't do us wrong. You got another thing coming. Like that's just
don't do us dirty if you're talking about St. Louis. Yeah. With the extra R. Don't do me dirty. With Beal, I think I like I said, I think with Beal, I would have liked it a little more if he just was like, okay, dude, I got you, because I think that's something like Mike would have done or somebody his generation, like apparently when LeBradford Smith sort of taught that, or Mike just was like, okay, I got you. Then he came out and bombed on him in that next game. Now Beal doesn't necessarily he didn't have the opportunity right away to bomb on Bazemore, on the next day. But he does have he'll have at least one opportunity, I would guess, in the future. I don't know if Bazemore with his, he's a journeyman. He may not even be on the Warriors next. He may be on another team, but he should be on the NBA team next season. I think if Beal might give him a 50-piece next time you see him on the court, so he would be well within his right to do that and bomb on him in any other way if he wanted to too. So that was it. Gabe, you got any thoughts on that, man? You back with us? I ain't got him on mute. Still have some issues with Gabe. Man, we'll see what. Yeah, Gabe, you're not coming in on the volume. But I don't know. But we'll get back to Gabe. But like I say, just transitioning along those lines. Anything? Oh, Gabe, good man.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Like, what's crazy about that situation to me is you talking about Beal's hamstring, but that same game that he messed up his hamstring against Indy, he came right back into the lineup and put up 50.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, you can't talk like he worked off your point that you made earlier, Josh, about Beal scoring 50, and it's like, yeah, again, you're trying to talk down on the dude who was clearly above you in the league, clearly better than you, better ability, better, tougher, and all that. It's like that's not a winning proposal. And you notice through all this, Curry has stayed, Steph has stayed silent because he knows that he doesn't gain any points in joining in on this. You should take the lead of your star. And if you're a role player like Ken Bazemore, just shut up and let your star player defend himself.
Yeah, he just got caught up in the moment, got outside his body for a second, and
sure,
looking a kind of way, but
yeah, that's like I say clown stuff and all that, but it's a lesson. Hopefully, it's a lesson learned for all you future role players, future journeymen out there. Just because you in the league, you better than a lot of people, but you got to recognize who you're not better than. There's always someone better than you in life, But
Midwestern show and Midwestern brothers. Don't mess with the Midwest. That's all I gotta say. Don't mess with the Midwest.
Certainly. So that too. Where's Bazemore from? I don't know. Where is he from?
Let's see.
The fact that we don't know knows that he has no business talking.
That's the fact that we don't know tells you all of it.
North Carolina?
North Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's where he was born, at least.
Okay. I don't know. There's some spots in North Carolina that's thorough that I'm guessing he's not from Vietnam or, Greensboro or one of them spots or wherever it is that Jerry Stackhouse is from. That's where's Stackhouse and what's my man name? Ingram is from. That's supposed to be a bunch of tough people from there. Yeah. I don't think he's from one of them places.
I guess he's like really tight with Steph. It's saying that he played a role in Steph getting that Under Armour deal.
Oh, that's right. He did. Yeah, I remember that. He did. So he's tight with Steph. Well, I guess that maybe that'll keep him on the Warriors at least, but let's say you already tight with the dude. You say you got him some bread with Under Armour or whatever. You know, you ain't got to kiss up and don't put yourself in the line of fire for him.
I mean, yeah. Furthermore, it's Steph Curry, man. Like it's Steph, bro. Like everybody knows who Steph Curry. Then you ain't gotta defend Steph. His game gonna speak for himself, man. This man gonna drop 30 in his sleep, man. 50 when he wants to try a little. You know what I'm saying? So he ain't got a cap for him, man.
Exactly, no cap, man.
I mean, he said. So you saying that he helped Steph Curry with his deal and getting with Under Armour? Does he have a line in Under Armour? Like, did you build? I mean, I'm just trying to comprehend how you help someone get with Under Armour. And you ain't
on the real though.
Like, how do you not do that? How do you not get a piece of that pie? And you help the man get a mega contract. Pretty much, I think he's with them, has a lifetime contract with Under Armour, doesn't he? Or something along those lines.
Right.
What Steph does?
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah, something like that. I think
that
maybe Steph throwing some bills under the table.
But now, look, I'm looking up this story now because I do remember that. I remember this story coming out. Is Kent Bazemore the reason Curry signed with Under Armour? This is videos. I don't want to do all that. But yeah, this it's been reported on and stuff. Okay, Kent Bazemore open right bridge stuff. All right, let me see. It's been yeah, he told Dan LeBatard that Under Armour gave him a deal as an undrafted rookie. Yeah, he had to deal with Under Armour first. And, he was, when Under Armour was real light, before they had anybody in the NBA, I think he was one of the first dudes. And he told Steph, he said, I'm like, dude, you can get your own shoe with Under Armour. And I hadn't talked to anyone at Under Armour. They came through, and he's definitely done so much for the brand. So, he kind of connected them. And
Bazemore got a 6-figure deal with the company.
Yeah. So he could be a peddler dude, and get some. He could be Under Armour a spokesman or something that's kind of, that kind of fits him because it's not Nike, it is not Adidas, it's Under Armour. It's not good enough for those other guys, But he brought them a real star in Curry, and Curry's rocking with him, so. Hey, they should throw him some ducats for the rest of his life, just off that,
For sure.
Yeah,
they should.
But,
I don't know if he's gonna get it from the Warriors next year, though.
Yeah, but like I say, you never know. You never know with a guy like that. He stayed in the league this long, but I said next time Beal see him, he's gonna light him up. I would think so. But right quick, let's move. Let's move into. I'm doing a little standings watching. As we get closer to the playing games, and I mentioned this Knicks Lakers game, which is going to be interesting tonight. And again, both teams are 38-30 coming into this game. The Knicks, though, in the East are a fourth seed with their 38-30. They're a half game above the Hawks, who they stand to play in the first round as of now, and they're 5 games behind the Bucks at number 3 in the East. So there's a clear delineation between the top 3 in the East and everybody else. Of course, Sixers are number 1, Nets are number 2. And the Bucks are number 3. All those teams have at least 40 wins. They're all at least 18 games above 500. They played clearly better ball than everybody else in the conference. But keep going down. You have the Hawks at number 5, the Heat at 6, 37-31, and with the playing teams, I should say, you have the Celtics, the Hornets, the Pacers, and the Wizards at number 10. Bulls are 2.5 games behind those Wizards. And checking and you got the Bulls score update?
Yeah, it's 93-74 in the third with 45 seconds left.
Yeah, so the Bulls are pretty much going down tonight, and you know, that's pretty much going to end their hopes. I think of going. Well, they got the Raptors on Friday, the Nets, like I said, Nets again, and the Bucks. Who knows how the Nets and Bucks are going to play those last two games, but the Wizards, the way they've been playing, they played good enough, it seems, to stay in that number 10. You have a guy going for 50 every night and a guy going for a triple-double every night. The Bulls don't have that. So, it's tough to deal with. But going over to the West right quick, again, the Lakers 38-30 are in 7th place. The Warriors are creeping up on them, 36-33 in number 8. The Wizards are 35-30. Grizzlies, I should say, are 35-33 at 9th place. And the Spurs are at 10th place, 33-35. They're 2.5 games up on the Pelicans. So it looks like the West is pretty much settling out, 2 for the play-in. And the non-playing teams, the Trailblazers are now a game and a half up on the Lakers. They're at number 6. Mavericks are number 5, Nuggets 4, Clippers, Suns, and Jazz, as they've been for a while, sitting atop that conference. And all those teams, top 6 have at least 40 wins. So it's what are we thinking about, how these standings are looking right now, and what do we expect to see? Do you expect any more movement coming through these last couple games as we go into the play-ins?
I do expect some more movement. What I'm particularly keeping my eye on is that 4, 5, 6 race in the East for who's going to escape playing Milwaukee in that first round. Because as you pointed to, the Hawks are a half game back of the Knicks, and the Heat are a half game back of the Hawks. So how that shakes out, man, that's you talk about the difference between, having a decent shot of getting out of that first round and no shot of getting out in the first round. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Big. As you guys know, I've made it pretty clear that I'm a Jimmy Butler fan, and by virtue of Miami Heat fan, so I'm looking for them to get out of that 6th spot so I can see these dudes play past the first round. Even though I think I tell anybody who's willing to listen to me, which is not a lot of people, but I think whoever the Heat match up with, win, lose, or draw, that other team is going to go into the next round limping. So we'll see how it plays out.
Right now it's the Bucks, and that's going to be a prove-it series there for a lot of people, because I think people still have a lot of questions about the Bucks. So, and they, the Heat are tough. They're just the kind of team that could give the Bucks fits with their defense, and they have a big man they could match up with Giannis. And that could definitely be a good matchup there in the first round. Maybe the most competitive, in that East.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, what I'm going to pay attention to is pretty much how the Lakers can stay afloat within this play-in. Because LeBron's already pissed that he tried to call somebody to get fired, and now he has to play in this tournament that he don't want to play in.
So you got it. You're predicting they're going to be in the play-in.
I'm predicting they will be in the play-in. Yes, I am. And if the playoffs started today, they're playing the Warriors, I believe. Is that correct? I think they'll be playing the Warriors.
Yeah, they play them in the first game.
Yeah.
And the winner of that game would get the 7th seed. Yeah.
Yeah, and outside of, only being so many games left in the season, with Portland beating them, I think that was Friday or Saturday, they own the tiebreaker now. So
yeah.
That LeBron,
man. Like LeBron had to take so many games off, man. I guess he was, you can't question his want to, but it's like, man, your guys ain't up for this, man. So, and I know he just like he's not used to working this hard yet at this point, and he doesn't want to at this point in his career. He doesn't want to work this hard. So it's like I kind of feel for him. Like,
yeah, in a way, it's like, bro, if y'all can't beat the one-man show over there in Golden State, you know what's coming. If you cannot beat Golden State in a one-game, basically playoff for that 7 seed, then I'm not sure what y'all doing. But then again, because it is only one game, it's like, man, anything can happen.
Yeah. And that's why that game is going to be a big game, man. Everybody's going to watch that game. Everybody's going to be wilding on Twitter. It's going to oh man, I'm really looking forward to seeing that, man.
Over under. How many gifts come out of that game? 10 or less?
Give me the over. Give me any number. It's gonna be over on that, man.
Over for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, that's gonna be wild, man. And you know, taking it back to the East, I wanted to bring this up because you know it's been a difficult stretch for them recently, and we especially with the injury now, the announcement of the Jaylen Brown and just injury. Boston is a team that you know looks to be headed for the play-in as well, even more so than the Lakers. And I really question them getting out of the play-in without Jaylen Brown. So it's like I don't know what you guys think. Like I want to bring this up. I hate these type of angles, but it's sort of getting to the point where Brad Stevens is on the hot seat. It seems like now Danny Ainge seems to be on the hot seat, and this is a team, it's a franchise that has played in 3 of the last 4 Eastern Conference Finals, and they've really taken a step back this year. When you think of a team, I was thinking this earlier. We think of a young team on the rise in the NBA, teams that, as groups, as unique groups themselves, haven't been to the finals, haven't won a championship yet. There's usually a progression that ensues. They win more games over each year, and they go further in the playoffs, and then they break through. You don't have with a team that wins a championship eventually. When a team, you know, makes a progression over a certain amount of years, and then they fall back, that fallback usually happens for a while, and then it leads to a rebuild. You know, and it seems to be the situation that the Boston Celtics are in right now. And, you know, because of that, you know, would you call them the most disappointing team in the league this year? Or would you go with LA Lakers as maybe even more disappointing? Or would you have some other team in the mix for that title?
So based off what you just said, expectations, you do have to take into account, obviously, for every team, COVID, but with the Celtics, Kemba Walker kind of slow out the gates, dealing with a knee injury. But I would definitely have them as my most disappointing team. But I would also have New Orleans in that conversation too.
Okay.
Missing out on the playoffs and the play-in. Some might say that they saw this coming just based off the kind of misshapen roster construction that they went under this past summer, bringing in Steven Adams and not really having the type of roster that best suits Zion Williamson's strengths. But for sure, the Celtics look like a team that could be crumbling before our eyes before they really even got to see themselves as a finished product.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. I think Boston is definitely probably the most disappointing team. And I think it's because you can have enough talent, but sometimes too much when roles aren't defined play a role in how successful your team can be as a whole. I actually kind of view Boston as like, in a sense, not to the full extent, but in a sense, similar to what the Bulls were with Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose. You have Jason Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown. In the beginning of the whole construction of that roster, even prior to Kemba Walker getting there, we looked at that roster and was like, oh, Jaylen Brown got talent, But that's Jason Tatum's team. Like Jason Tatum's going to eventually take over those reins. Now we're at a point where they're kind of even. And Jason Tatum hasn't emerged as the full-time aggressive scorer that we know he can be. Especially in the way that Boston probably needed him to be when they was going through not just COVID, but injuries as well. Because you're talking about missing Marcus Smart for 17 plus games. You missed Kemba Walker for an X amount of games. Now you miss Jaylen Brown, who arguably this season was the top scorer on their team and probably the better go-to scorer on this team. He's out for the rest of the season now. So you have talent in Jason Tatum where, you know, he can emerge and still step up to be that guy. But I think he took a step back, and with Jaylen Brown emerging, Boston's in a situation where you got to figure out if you got to keep both or one of them may have to go. And the fact that you just signed Jason Tatum long-term and both of them pretty much long-term deals, you obviously wanted to make it work, but we thought the same thing in Chicago. Derrick Rose, we still thought, even though he's using a long-term contract, he still was playing at a very high level. Jimmy Butler came out of nowhere, emerged as a star. Try to figure out who was the focal point of that offense still. Then eventually you had to get rid of one of them. I think Boston, if they don't get it together, they may be going down that similar path between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and they have a tough choice to pick because contract-wise, they're both very similar. You max both players out in back-to-back years. So I don't know. I think it's an accumulation of different things when you talk about Boston and their setbacks. However, I think they're also in a situation where the Bulls as a whole had to go through. They may be going through that same situation if things don't pick up soon.
That's a good comparison, man. And I think a lot like the Bulls, the way that they were being ran at that time, they tried to do a lot of different things, but they didn't get to the heart of the matters of the things that were wrong with the team. Gar Pax didn't really address the heart of the matters with things with Rose and Jimmy and the thing, and they didn't address the things that the team was lacking in a direct way either. They tried to nip along the edges or try to be slick and bring in people who they thought would work but wouldn't work, like D Wade or whatever, and even with someone who did kind of work in Rondo, they let him go. So Boston just had to make the right moves. Boston has, been trade partners with teams, and they did the deal with the Bulls and gave up Thies and they bring in Evan Fournier and they do these things, but it's not really addressing what's really wrong with the team. They tried, bigger deals, of course, in the past with Kyrie, didn't work, and they always been in the mix, with rumor-wise with big players like Anthony Davis and others, but they couldn't reel them in. And, they're just really at a point now where that window is seemingly closing on them, because they didn't handle their business right. And not because they didn't have a lack of talent. Not, you can argue about the coaching at this point, but it seemed like, he was good enough to get them to a certain point. Why, the breakthrough, I think, eventually has to come through with the players, And, we look at them tonight, they're losing to Miami. It looks like they're going to take another loss here. And, because of the teams that are under them, they're not likely going to fall out of the play-in at least. But like I said, how much of a threat can they be right now without Jaylen Brown? And, with a team that has very little in the post area in the front court, and like I say, just beat up in a lot of ways and beat up mentally, and I wouldn't expect much from them going forward.
Yeah, your point about them maybe not even surviving the play-in round or play-in tournament is a very good one. Like if it was a regular year with no play-in, they'll be set up to play the Nets anyway. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
as it stands right now, they got the Hornets, which are kind of in a little bit of a free fall. I'm not sure when Miles Bridges and Gordon Hayward will be back, but I would pick the Hornets at full strength to beat the Celtics. That would drop them down to the 8th seed where they have to play the winner of the 9th and 10th. And I wouldn't put them against. I wouldn't bet against them going against Bradley Beal and Russ. Maybe against the Pacers, but even that is like, man, I had to think about it.
Look, I'm almost writing and penning the Wizards. I think like it's just like, look, one game like with Beal and Westbrook, the way they're playing right now, it's like, man, none of those other teams just have any momentum about them. Yeah. You know, the Wizards have been garbage at points throughout this season, but they still have Westbrook and Beal. So it's like, give me those two guys under anything that those other three teams have going right now.
Yeah, none of those other teams have Daniel Gafford either, man.
Or Chandler Hutchison.
That's the difference, man. The Bulls gonna make a difference somehow this season. Yeah, man. Oh man, that's I'll be damned, man.
It's bad, man. It's bad. It's bad luck for Boston, especially now that they're about to lose this. They're about to lose this this tiebreaker with Miami. Because now Miami's going to be ahead of the Boston in the standings, and just watching this game, they don't look the same. They look lost. They look like they don't have the identity that they used to have, but that's also, like you mentioned earlier, Kyle, a multi-demographic situation. That's not just coaching. That's also players investing in the coach or buying into the coach's system still, and players got to live up to their expectations. When you sign players like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker to max contracts, they got to bring it every year. They got to bring it. And this year they just don't have it. It's just not the same. And, who knows what they're going to do in the offseason. You're talking about Brad Stevens being on the hot seat. You're talking about Danny Ainge being potentially on the hot seat. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, but
that's why I was gonna end this part of the conversation with especially with Brown being injured now and out for the rest of the season, that sort of gives them an out, the players an out. And I think the storyline up there is gonna be like, look, we didn't have all our team, we had one of our best guys out at the end of the year. I think it's gonna turn more towards is Stevens and Ainge the combination that is going to bring us a title from their spot. So, like I said, do you expect one or both of those guys to lose their job in this upcoming offseason?
It's tough.
I will probably say Stevens more so than Ainge. I feel like Ainge might be.
He's like president for life.
Yeah, man. But Brad Stevens, but he'll land somewhere else though.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, Brad Stevens did bring a lot to the actual franchise as a whole. We talk about somewhat of a success. It's just a matter of does Danny Ainge have the balls to let him go? That's pretty much what it boils down to. Especially if Danny Ainge is not going anywhere. Because I'm with you, Drew. I doubt Danny Ainge is going there. Pretty much as soon as he got Kevin Durant and Ray Allen, then to pair up with Paul Pierce and create the big three with Rondo, and they won that championship in 2008, it was a wrap. You pretty much solidified he's going to be there pretty much for life, right? He revived the Boston Celtics franchise. So that was pretty much a given. When you talk about Brad Stevens, though, he wasn't the coach to deliver that championship. He brought him there, but he hasn't been there to deliver that championship. So if I'm Brad Stevens, I ain't gonna lie. I should have held on to that Indiana contract and been like, yo, put me on the next flight after this season. And I would have been the head coach at Indiana compared to what he about to do it now. But at least Indiana, he would have got security. I don't think he got the security like he used to, dealing with this team and what's been going through now. Because I think that it's a combination of things, but Brad Stevens definitely plays a role in it, and that's something that it's up to Danny Ainge whether or not he wants to get rid of. People thought Scott Brooks was going to stay in Oklahoma City for a long time until they pulled that plug and brought in Billy Donovan. It's tough. It's just a tough situation, but does any Ainge really have the balls to say, okay, you know what? We need a different voice. We need something different that's gonna push us over the hump with the talent that we already have. I don't know.
I agree with you guys. I think Stevens, I think as of now, he's staying in the, even if he loses a job this year, he's going to try to stay in the pro level, but he would have his pick of jobs at the college level that could be open. But there could be a few jobs on the NBA level still that he could have his pick from as well. And I think he's the odd man out. He's the easy scapegoat in this situation right now. And, Josh, yeah, you talk about Ainge, him having that tie to the 08 championship team, definitely. And even more than that, having the ties to the 80s Celtics as well. There's still enough people who remember those teams up there that allow you to, like I say, do whatever you want for the rest of your time. He really had to mess up to lose that job. And I think given that Miami Boston has dealt with the injuries that they have and everything, and they still feel that they have at least a top two pairing that they could work with as far as talent and everything. They still probably feel that we just need this coaching. We just need a coaching upgrade. We just need a little more tweaking from the fan base. They probably feel that way up there. But Boston got some work to do, man. Definitely. Yeah. It's a shame that if that window closes, without them even coming close really to a title. But like I said, I don't remember. Maybe you guys can think of it, but I don't recall a team that rose up to the level that Boston has risen up to over time, fell back, and then made the jump forward again without rebuilding. Like, you maybe you win a title and then you fall back, but you have, like I said, you won that title at least. But like I say, this unit as it is in Boston, they haven't accomplished anything yet, and it's not looking like they're going to accomplish anything as they are. They're going to have to maybe break each other, like say break, Tatum and Brown up maybe, or something like, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the Allen Iverson Philadelphia teams and when that finals appearance happened, and then how far back they dropped before they got back to that Easter. Oh no, wait, that was the Easter Conference. Never mind. I had it mixed up in my brain. I was thinking about that showdown he and Vince had, but Philly won that, I think, to get to the 0-1.
Yeah, that was the same year.
Yeah.
That was the semifinals. They won that. They beat Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, that was all the same year.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kyle. I don't know if that's possible, man. The way, especially nowadays with the way player movement is.
Yeah, you got to have that forward momentum, man. You can't. You got to keep it moving, or you're gonna end up in purgatory in that purgatory place.
Yeah, and you got to wonder what kind of the amount of check swings Ainge just had on a lot of so many deals that he could have made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like I say, he got to be in a good spot, man. It's like they got to tell him, man, you good with your job, man. Just do what you got to do, because he's had enough chances.
That's true, and not a move he's made has felt like it's been made out of desperation. So
they most effective guys they got through the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, they've been, you've heard them in the mix for Davis, you heard them in the mix for a couple other guys. I'm trying to think of some other, but they've been in the mix just about every top potential trade bait in their time since they've like they got Kyrie, but like I say, that just didn't work. So but we're gonna start to wrap up here. Another good running session here. Gabe, thanks to Gabe for jumping on with us. Couldn't hang through the whole show, but we definitely appreciate him trying to and offering his thoughts as he offered them. But the last thing I just want to jump into for this show with the Lakers jumping up for this second game tonight. And the Lakers are always a team that captures the imagination. One of the more legendary and teams in sports and in sports in general, not just the NBA. And like a lot is developing right now. It seems to be a big trend for the studios and TV networks and streaming platforms are all getting into this Lakers project. They get into this mood to develop projects centered around the Lakers in one form or fashion. And there's 3 particular shows that are in development right now. One is I guess you could call it a dramatic reenactment of the 80s Lakers dynasty that's being developed at HBO. There's a straight up documentary that's going on with Hulu, and there's a Magic Johnson documentary that, Magic, is clearly he isn't mincing any words when he says that he saw Mike do The Last Dance. He's like, I want to do my own documentary. He ain't fronting on that at all. If you look at interviews regarding this documentary, he's like, I want my own Last Dance. Mm-hmm. And so that's being developed as well. So I don't know. I threw some links out at y'all about all these projects. And I don't know if you got any thoughts about these and, any of these shows that may interest you more than the others. I think the casting, there was an article on the Ringer about the casting for the HBO series, and that's pretty interesting. And the fact you're talking about HBO in general means that we may have a sex scene. We probably gonna have an orgy scene with Dr. Buss and Magic. They go take some liberties, I think, with the story. And they may not be liberties. They may be more truthful than they care to admit.
I mean, Phil and Jeannie probably had sex after every championship. I mean, I'm just putting that out there that you may have to see an old Phil Jackson getting it in with an older Jeannie Buss. I mean,
yeah,
that's gonna be a little weird, especially if you do it naked. Oh man.
Yeah, it may be some weird mix of Game of Thrones and the what's that old basketball show, The White Shadow or something like that. But let me look at this. Some of the casting apparently that's going to happen with this show. Rob Morgan as Irvin. Oh, no, Irvin Johnson Sr. Okay, Rob Morgan is an old character actor. I get Spencer Garrett is chicken. I don't know who that is. Norm Nixon's son is playing Norm Nixon. Devon Nixon. That's interesting. They're gonna have a Donald Sterling character in here, which oh god, I don't know how they're gonna incorporate him with the story. An actress named Hadley Robinson is playing Jeannie Buss. Let me see. Oh, Quincy. A lot of no-name actors in this. I guess a lot of they say no. People who haven't made their mark yet are going to be acting in a lot of these key positions. Solomon Hughes, a guy named Solomon Hughes, is going to be Kareem. Quincy Isaiah, a young actor, is going to be Magic Johnson. So maybe these guys will break through and be, make a performance that'll be star-making performance. Okay. Now we get Sally Field is Jessie Buss. So I guess that's going to be Dr. Buss's wife. Jason Clark is Jerry West. Okay, that's a notable character actor. And they have a picture of him in the article. So if you don't, if you there's a guy you could, I'm thinking if you're watching the movies, you recognize him. Adrian Brody as Pat Riley. Michael Chiklis as Red Auerbach. That's old boy who started on The Shield. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And, Jason Segel from How I Met Your Mother as Paul Westhead. Bo Burnham as Larry. That's really crazy. That's a comedian, Bo Burnham as Larry Bird. And John C. Reilly is Jerry. That's the real big casting. The John C. Reilly is Jerry Buss. I don't know, man. That sounds like a lot of wild business, man. With that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to, poo-poo these actors or the idea, but I'm kind of glossing over that. I just want to see the real, actual documentaries that are coming out, man. You know what I'm saying? The true to life stuff. I don't need to see no unsolved mysteries, Lifetime reenactment. I'm good, man. Y'all could have saved that one, man. Or just make it its own show. Don't try to. Come on, man.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, man. It's like if I have to watch anything Laker oriented, I think actually doing somewhat of a last dance with Magic Johnson in the 80s. Actually, I think that would be great. I really do think that would be great, especially if you can get all the original players and managers and things of that sort, and even get celebrities that came to those LA games at that time frame to talk about it. That would be ideal. I would love to see that.
Magic, it seems that Magic is really competing with The Last Dance, but he's getting people who all were on The Last Dance. Like he's getting like Obama and some folks who, but don't necessarily have as much connection to him as they did with Mike.
Yeah, why you not reaching out to Jack Nicholson?
That's what I was gonna say. Like, you gotta get Denzel Washington on there. You gotta get Jack Nicholson on there. You gotta get all these players.
I agree.
Or celebrities that actually went to those Laker games. That was part of that Laker nation at that time. Like you can't just reach out to people that Mike utilized because Mike is a global icon. The Last Dance was a standard that was super high. That MJ put that standard high because he's MJ. Yeah. And everything that came with that is typical MJ. So there's no competition with that. That's number one. But then number two, if you're trying to get anything close to it, the Lakers dynasty is probably the second best closest thing you will get to that. And because of that, you got to get the right people that actually was a part of those things to make that thing come to life.
But the thing with the Magic documentary though is that it is going to be, for what I've read, it's going to be about his life. And Mike, what they did with The Last Dance is they led you in with the Bulls, but it did wind up being sort of a whole thing on Mike's life, and that's what filled out the 10 hours. Now. Magic's document, they're letting you know up front that it's going to go back to him in Lansing, Michigan, and all this. And I don't know if that's going to be interesting enough. We have to see how they deal with the previous stuff before, say, 79 when he won the national championship with Michigan State.
Right.
I don't know how interesting that stuff is going to be. We have to see how they deal with that. But yeah, like you say, Josh, the meat of the story is the 80s, is Showtime, what they do with that stuff, and is there going to be a cocaine circus? Is Magic going to be as and it's interesting. It's interesting because we would have all expected before The Last Dance to question how forthright and how open Michael would be in front of the cameras, but he wound up being more open than any of us would have imagined. So Magic is going to have to do a similar thing where he's going to have to be like, okay, this is who I was. I was cheating on Cookie. I was wilding out with Dr. Buss. We did this and that, but I was still hooping and winning and all that. And this was the man that I was back then. And, and that's the thing too. There has been a lot of recording and documenting of Magic already. Like, because him retiring in 91 and revealing he got AIDS, that's one of the biggest sports stories of the 20th century. Mm-hmm. So there's been multiple documentaries and stuff about that already. So that's another thing that makes me think, like, I don't know how revealing they're going to be about this in this project, what's going to do to really overtake what they've already done with Magic and, to match the amount of revelation that occurred with The Last Dance. And again, you get into, like I say, you get into redundancy when you have multiple projects sort of overlapping the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this Hulu thing, you know, we sort of mentioning last is like, I don't know, maybe it depends. A lot's gonna depend on the filmmakers, because you can have multiple documentaries on the same subject. Like there were 2 documentaries on that Fire Fest, and it seems like everybody agrees that the one on Netflix was a lot better than the one on Hulu. So, you know, we may have these 2 documentaries come out, and it may be one that is certainly a lot better than the other, you know. But I would say, I'm right now. I don't know, man. I just like bad TV. I like dramatic TV. So I'm kind of more interested in the HBO. And HBO, we know HBO, what they do with stuff, man. I just want to see how they make these people up and try to have them act like that's just, it's just going. If anything, it's gonna be funny. If it's not really good, it's gonna be funny. So
Right.
Either way, I'm going to be pleased in that fact.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. Yeah.
But if it right quick though, we'll leave it on it. If it's outside of the Bulls, because the Bulls have got this treatment now, and the Lakers have got this treatment, what would be another NBA team or era that you would like to see, like a multi-documentary or multi-television project on? Television project on?
Good question.
Staying in the NBA, right?
Yeah, we keep it to. We could span it to basketball in general, since we're
probably the Knicks, man. The '90s Knicks, kind of weaving in their battles with us and trying to get over the hump of Michael Jordan, then finally getting over the hump with that bogus call, Hugh Hollins, you know who you are, and then getting to a finals, 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Technically 2, but they were different teams. Yeah.
And then also, I think maybe a week, 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, that story came out about how they were trying to get Michael Jordan to come to New York before he signed those 2 huge single-year contracts with the Bulls. So I would want to see something like that. I know Chris Herron used to be of 538. Now he's with SI. I think he has a book coming out on the Knicks. I think it's about the '90s Knicks. So to kind of put that in a visual format would be something that I'll be interested in seeing, because those were some great games. Some of my fondest or my most vivid memories of the Bulls outside of the championship runs have to do with those games against the Knicks, playoffs or otherwise. It was always playoff intensity.
Okay. Josh, you got another team or era that you throw up there?
Yeah, I would probably say, I honestly probably would say like the early thousands Lakers. When you talk about the Kobe and Shaq era, I wish there was a more in-depth documentary on that. And it obviously sucks. I would love to hear Kobe's side of it. Even though they already had a little bit of a sit down between one-on-one with Kobe and Shaq, I would love to get the outside, especially that championship year. Well, not a championship year, but the year they went to the championship and lost to the Pistons, where you had the Gary Paytons and the Karl Malone on that team. I would love to sit down and listen to see what that was like. See when they're both on the tail end of their careers, like at that time.
Just what Karl Malone said to Vanessa Bryant.
Yep. Yeah, I would love to see that and how that dynasty eventually led to the breakup. But that for me, that's for sure an era. And even outside of that, a part of me kind of wants to go to like the teams that didn't, like Drew mentioned, a team that was good in a specific era but never made it that far. So you want to talk about like the KG Timberwolves, or you want to talk about like the Milwaukee Reales, Milwaukee Bucks, or Sonics even, where they had those top tier talents, but they just didn't go far or that far in depth to win a championship. Like I would love to see what those stories will be like too, especially since the earlier era of basketball to me was so much more diverse and very from a talent perspective. I would love to revisit some of those.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams, like almost teams, and teams that may have won once or something or got to one final that you could do at least one movie about and stuff. And there's quite a few projects like that out there. I think if you search for them, like on NBA TV, they've shown quite a few projects like that. Like I think of one that was on the Portland teams that came close. One in particular that went against the Bulls in '92. That whole era, they lost to the Bulls in '92, lost to the Pistons in '90. There was a pretty good like 90-minute documentary on them on NBA TV. There's one on those Sonics that you mentioned, Josh. It centers on the Rain Man and Glove relationship, Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. But it tells the story of that whole era. There's other teams, Run TMC maybe, the Suns with Barkley, Utah probably wouldn't be that interested actually. But there's quite a few teams like that. Multiple part series though is kind of what I was asked the question. I don't know if there's very few teams that you can put up to that level, but maybe in the future, those Warriors teams.
Oh yeah.
LeBron is likely going to have a 10 part series on him eventually. Maybe Kobe as an individual. Yeah. And that of course we'll have to deal a lot with those early 2000s Lakers. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of stories like this. It's like I say, it's the breakthrough that Michael and the Last Dance production brought forth, where that people like to go down memory lane. They like to hear these stories in depth about their favorite players, their favorite teams. So I think every couple of years now, we probably can expect a project like this from different eras of the NBA.
Yeah, it wasn't a docuseries, just a 30 for 30, but I was so glad when they came out with the Orlando Magic Penny and Shaq.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Those are my guys, especially Penny, man. But maybe something similar with the Redeem team. I think we've got different pieces of some behind the scenes stuff, but like have a full on documentary. I think that I would like to see that, because there's been every now and then they'll cook up some talk about who was better or which one would have won, the Dream Team or the Redeem Team. And you get some interesting arguments being made for either team, either side. So
yeah, you could definitely go over the history, the history of USA basketball with the NBA's players, going back to the Dream Team and through the Redeem Team and all, which definitely.
I thought there was actually a documentary in the works for that though. And I hope I'm right saying this, but I thought I heard there was a documentary being put into the ropes, especially when the Dream Team documentary came out on NBA TV.
Yeah,
I thought they said that there was the works for the Redeem Team to do that, because like Drew mentioned, like the Redeem Team was for me like our version of the Dream Team. They was that cold, and and that's something that they need to highlight, especially when you talk about. But Kobe in his prime being on that team, you had a prime D Wade, you had a prime Carmelo, a very prime LeBron James, all with a prime Chris, Jason Kidd, a prime D Will, like that was that whole that era.
That's 08, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 08, because 04 was the year that they really was crap. And they came back in 08. So really that team would be worth it, because that's the team where essentially the big three in Miami, their origins come from that. So you talking about a team that was a response to the failures of USA basketball in the Olympics before it. And, there was a lot of outcry, if you remember at the time, just how people were, the pressure that people were putting on that team to make up for what happened in 04, the failure that they had in 04. And then you have that the members of that team that did so much to change the NBA generation going forward with player empowerment and everything like that. So yeah, there's definitely a story to be told there. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it though for now. We're gonna wrap up this running session here. Appreciate you guys for riding with me. Almost 2 hours in here, but definitely good time talking to y'all as always. We'll be back again on Thursday with a WNBA preview. Me and Josh will be involved with that with Chris Pennant and James K. Chris, of course, is our guy, but also, half of the Skyhook podcast with James. And we're going to break down the WNBA season, which is starting off this weekend. The Sky, of course, themselves, a leading contender in the WNBA. We're going to go into them and what their season and everything, and the league as a whole. It's going to be a pretty good show. So keep up with that. That's going to be streamed live on the WARR Twitter, and but it'll eventually be on this YouTube page as well here, WARR, on Anchor podcast as well. They'll be available on all our platforms. But live, you want to stream us live, you want to join in on the show and everything, you want to talk some women's basketball with us, feel free to go to the WARR Media Twitter page on Thursday. The time will be out eventually. The exact time, but we'll get that out. But yeah, till then, Drew, Josh, appreciate you guys, man. We'll talk to y'all next week. We'll be responding, I guess, next week, next Thursday, to the play-in games and see how all that plays out and how the playoffs will be, I guess, maybe officially set at that time. So we'll definitely have a lot of reaction to all that next week. But like I say, this Thursday coming up, we got the WNBA preview, so definitely watch out for that. And in the meantime, keep bouncing.